So welcome to the NYU MLK Week 2023, our 18th consecutive university-wide event. It is so great to have you all here. My name is Monroe Frantz, and I'm Senior Associate Vice President for Global Engagement and Inclusive Leadership in the Office of Global Inclusion within the President's Office here at NYU. I am, as I mentioned, I'm chair of the 2023 NYU MLK Week. We are very excited about tonight's program. We have such a brilliant and talented panel of speakers and artists that will be joining us this evening. I'm so very excited to welcome later this evening Maggie Anderson, who's one of our speakers, Dr. Shatima Jones, and Michael R. Jackson in conversation with our very own, my dear colleague, Dr. Karen Jackson Weaver. We know that there are many other places you could be this evening, and I'm just so appreciative you decided to be in this space tonight. You made the right choice. So before we get started, I want to tell those who are with us on live stream, welcome. It's great to have you here. And as well, we have live captioning available for those on live stream. If you just press the little button down at the bottom that says live transcript on your screen, you'll be able to have in real time transcripts for you as you follow along in this evening's event. I want to begin by saying thank you, that I hope that all of you are taking great care this evening and that you're also taking care of each other. I would like to take a moment to honor those that have come before us. In particular, in this moment, I'm feeling very called to honor my great-grandmother, who raised me from the age of 12 and who actually told me to become an educator. So for me, I feel very special that I've had Black women in my life that have really set a pathway for me in understanding my own journey as a citizen of the world, as a man, as an educator, as an overall human being. I want to honor those as well whose lives have been lost in ongoing recent acts of violence. Enough is enough. This is so important that we continue to honor our humanity, that we continue to call out violence, and that we continue to live in the spirit of Martin Luther King, which is about seeing the full humanity of all of us, So as we come into this evening, and as we think about our ancestors, as we think about those whose pathways we walk in, or those that are coming behind us, let's please take a moment of pause collectively in this space this evening. Thank you. I would also like to thank, which I did earlier this evening as well at our reception, our past chair emeritus, Alan McFarland, who's here with us this evening. Let's give Alan, we all joke and we say that Alan is our historian here at NYU, but he's far more than that. He is a mentor, he is a role model, and he is someone who cares deeply about students in our alumni community. Thank you, Alan, for your ongoing leadership and for all of your contributions to the NYU MLK Week over the years. As well, she's not here this evening, but I would also like to thank and recognize Dr. Patricia Carey as well. Thank you to everyone who's made this week possible. There are some of you who keep coming back year after year after year. I don't know why you keep doing it, but obviously there is something special about us coming together as a committee and working together collectively to imagine and inspire and to innovate and to collectively come up with a vision for how we want to bring our community together around the history and the spirit and the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Thank you. In particular, I would like to give a big shout out to Luis Cisneros, who I'm sure he's on camera watching us now. Thank you, Luis. This week would not be possible. My time here the last several years at the institution would not be possible with all of your support and contributions to our work. I would also like to thank two people who have made this week possible over the years, that continue to show up and continue to do incredible work one year after the next. Tara Nakata and Alicia Gooden. So all the beautiful swag and the branding and the materials, that was those two people working in contribution and community with some of our graduate student workers as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to Leah Lattimore for coming back to continue to contribute. Thank you to Carl Williams, who's behind the scenes, who's come back many years and helped us with production and management. And once more, thank you to our overall committee for all of your contributions. This in-person event, which I'm so happy we're back in person together again, would not be possible without everyone's collective contributions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your dedication, your passion as a committee is extraordinary. It is because of you I am possible. It's because of our collective contributions this week is possible. For 18 years, the MLK Week has served as a cornerstone of our collective histories here at NYU. During this time, we continue to come together in community to commemorate Dr. King's legacy, as well as his February 5th, 1961 visit here at our University Heights campus up in the Bronx. This year's central theme is this: our collective liberation. In the words of Dr. King, we are taught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. The collective responsibility to liberate ourselves globally, cross-generationally, and beyond is what drives this year's MLK Week programming. And I cannot think of a more pivotal framework and theme than the one that we have selected for this year. How are we coming together, not just like in prayer, but in action? Not just in our thoughts, but in taking accountability. Our collective liberation counts on all of us doing our part to make our community, our communities, and our world and our planet a better place. This evening, we have put together an exciting program that I hope will challenge, that will inspire, that will make us think critically, that will make us disagree, and make us celebrate. And how we, from our sphere of influence, can make change and make a difference. How can we affect change together? It's a question I hope stays at the forefront of our minds this evening. What can happen when we live our truth? It is my hope that as we take this time together in community, that we embrace these questions. And as we think about what's next after this evening, how will you continue to carry forward the message of King and continue to contribute to your communities to make them a better place? I will speak a little bit more on some of these concepts and these themes later this evening, but for now, I want to just say again, welcome, 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 and thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up this evening. So without any further ado, I would like to bring forward our president, Dr. Andy Hamilton, and as well, our senior vice president, Dr. Lisa M. Coleman, to bring you greetings via video. So we're going to play two videos back to back, and then I'll come back and honor a few of our awardees this evening. Dr. Hamilton.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Hamilton, president of NYU, and I couldn't be more delighted to welcome you to the 18th annual MLK Week university-wide event. Thank you for joining us during a very busy semester. Today, we commemorate Dr. King's historic visit to the University Heights campus in 1961. We also recognize his transformative work in advancing civil rights and equity, and his commitment to the most underserved members of society. MLK Week is one of our most significant traditions here at NYU. Each year, we dedicate this time to revisit Dr. King's teachings and explore how they align with NYU's mission of advancing global inclusion, diversity, belonging, equity, and access. Now, doing anything university-wide at a place the size of NYU is a major undertaking. So let me first recognize the people who have made it possible. Thank you to the MLK Week Planning Committee, with more than 50 NYU community members from across the university. Thank you also to MLK Week Planning Committee Chair, Munro France, Senior Associate VP for Global Engagement and Inclusive Leadership. And thank you to the schools and units that are leading the programs this week in honor of Dr. King. Thank you also to the guest speakers who we are so pleased to host throughout the week. And a special congratulations in advance to the MLK Week Award winners who will be announced shortly. We are grateful for your contributions to the NYU community and for carrying forward the legacy of Dr. King in your work. MLK Week has been a wonderful tradition for NYU, and I am so pleased to be here virtually, as it has been particularly important to me during my time as president. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the effort it takes to come together to do the work of fighting racism and moving closer to Dr. King's ideals, particularly in recent weeks as we bore witness to the violence inflicted on Tyree Nichols. It demands our outrage. It is clear injustice persists in our society and remains a major challenge for us all. But it is incumbent upon us to turn that outrage into action. Indeed, we face innumerable challenges, and the journey will be long. I commend each and every one of you for joining us this week and for participating every day in the struggle to realize the world Dr. King envisioned, a world with a better future for us all. NYU MLK Week is a chance to reflect and find ways to make progress. It's also a time to honor the progress we have made, as well as the community we have built. So I thank you for your dedication to making this university and this world the best it can be, and for the energy and commitment you bring to this effort. And now we have a wonderful program for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Dr. Lisa Coleman, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Global Inclusion and Strategic Innovation. Thank you to everyone who's here for participating, and thank you for joining us for this week's MLK ceremonies. Afrofuturism is the theme for this year's MLK Week and underscores transgenerational co-creation and a reimagining of the past, present, and future. And these are undeniable parallels between the aims and the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s teachings. In the words of Dr. King, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. This year's programming not only showcases, but invites participants to learn what it means to honor the full legacy of King's work across the African diaspora and in a global context, from civil rights and arts and politics to the future of technology and the biological and environmental sciences. And this is central to our work in OGI as we continue our work on innovation and bringing margin to center as we navigate our collective global futures. And let me also thank Andy Hamilton for his continued support of the work of OGI. Let me also thank Munro France. Thank you for all that you've done, for your incredible service over these years. You have served in some capacity as the chair, advisor, etc. to the MLK Week programming since its inception on the NYU campus. We as a community will be forever indebted to you and thankful for your contributions. I would like to also thank Leah Lattimore, Wherever you are right now, Leah, thank you for all of your contributions, past and present. And of course, thank you to the entire MLK committee for all of your incredible work. As we all are aware, these continue to be very divisive times, and they continue to be an opportunity for us to learn from the work of Martin Luther King Jr., particularly as a scholar. He reminds us, quote, that all that we do uplifts humanity, has dignity and importance, and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence, end quote. He also reminds us that change, quote, does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle, end quote. We continue to advance his teaching and his scholarship in a myriad of ways, but most importantly, with our MLK scholars and our MLK alumni who elevate and reimagine this work today. Thank you to MJ and to Georgette, and of course again to Monroe and to Karen Jackson Weaver and all of the people who continue to work with the MLK Scholars Program. And a very special shout out to Patricia Carey for your legacy in creating and building this particular program. And most importantly, to you MLK scholars, past, present, and future. But again, thank you to all of our partners who make this possible, and again, particularly to student success. Now, as we move into this program, I just have to say a few words about faculty. I don't have time to go through each one of the faculty who won an award on Tuesday, but I'd like to say congratulations to an amazing group of talented individuals working with our students to imagine and reimagine what classrooms look like for the future of scholarship, the future of research, and so much more. We are reminded by King that, quote, the function of education is to teach one to think extensively and to think critically, end quote. And you do so with your generosity and in the spirit of advancing the ethos of King's legacy through your teaching. We are so pleased that we are able to honor you and know that we will continue to sing your praises far and wide. And of course, thank you to the Office of the Provost, and in particular, Gigi DePico, for her support of our work with faculty. Thank you to the entire OGI team, all the people behind the scenes, and of course to our esteemed panelists. Thank you for being here. We are so excited for all of the work that you have accomplished, and we are so pleased that you will be in discussion with Dr. Karen Jackson Weaver in just a few moments. As we finalize the work, let me just say congratulations to all of our award recipients. Thank you for all the work that you continue to do. And now I turn it back over to Monroe Frowns.
I want to acknowledge our award recipients, some of which have already received their awards and one of which will receive his award this evening. So earlier this week, we hosted the MLK Faculty Award Reception Ceremony. I first want to say thank you to my dear colleague, Dr. Karen Jackson Weaver, for being the chair. And also to, like, some members of the committee are here this evening as well. Thank you for your contributions and your commitment. And congratulations to all of our faculty members who exemplify the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through teaching excellence, through leadership, social justice activism, community building, and once again, thank you for all that you do for our students. Congratulations. I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our student award winners of the week. We start with the Department of Athletics MLK Award, and so this is one of our key strategic partners, NYU Athletics. This year's recipients are of the Student Athletics Awards, Anika Santos of women's fencing and Ephraim Reed of men's basketball. Congratulations to the both of you. Each year we work with our Steinhardt Graduate Students organizations, or Steinhardt Graduate Student Organization on their oratorical contest. And this year's winners are Michaela Bloomer, an undergraduate student majoring in international relations at the College of Arts and Science. Congratulations to Michaela on your powerful performance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now to the Patricia M. Carey Changemaker Award. So we have two student winners of this award. One is an undergraduate student and one is a graduate student, and the two of them have been presented with their awards this evening. But I would like to acknowledge them as well at tonight's event. This award is presented to one undergraduate student and one graduate student, as I mentioned, who embodies humility, compassion, and strong character. The recipients of this award demonstrate a commitment to enriching and providing service to their communities as exemplified by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Patricia M. Carey. I am so thrilled to announce Enid M. Acevedo Colon of the Tisch School of Arts. And then as well to Regina Wu of the Silver School of Social Work. Obviously, people showed up for Regina. Okay, Regina. Congratulations to you both. Congratulations, congratulations. And then, as I mentioned earlier at the reception, we integrated 2 additional awards over the last year to acknowledge and recognize our staff and administrators, our unionized staff and administrators for their contributions to the university in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We do this award in collaboration with the NYU Administrative Management Council, so thank you to Dee, who I saw here earlier, I'm not sure if she's still here, our chair, for shepherding this process in partnership with others. And this year's recipient for the staff award, for the administrative award is Francesca Jimenez. Congratulations, Francesca. And then as well for the staff award is Isabella Rivera, who's in liberal studies in the dean's office. All right, okay, so obviously lots of love here this evening, which is really, really fantastic. Okay, so now I have the amazing privilege and honor to recognize one of my dear friends, someone who makes me laugh. Whenever I'm in his presence, brings me joy, and is just such an incredible scholar and talented scholar and artist and humanitarian. It is my dear privilege to congratulate my dear friend, my dear colleague, Professor Michael Dinwiddie on his humanitarian award.
The Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award is annually presented to an humanitarian within the NYU community who embodies and exemplifies the characteristics promoted by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Quote, a vision of peace, persistence, and purpose, and inspirational in action, end quote. I now turn to Michael Dinwiddie. Michael, I can't say enough. One of the wonderful things about coming to an institution is that you get to meet extraordinary people. You meet citizens, people who contribute to the institution in vast ways that are almost indescribable and so innumerable that it would take almost the number of decades that Michael has been here at NYU to describe all of the contributions that he has made. Michael, thank you. Thank you for being a true humanitarian. As Dr. King said, quote, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others, end quote. You, Michael, have and continue to do so much. In the spirit of our theme of Afrofuturism, you've opened up new pathways for the future across the diaspora. As a dramatist and NEA award winner, you have produced numerous projects, right? And those projects across educational theater from New York to California to Argentina. Your teaching is legendary. And as the recipient of the 2005 NYU Distinguished Teaching Award, as is your work and collaboration with colleagues marked by your 2015 team teaching grant from the NYU Humanities Initiative for the course Movement for Justice and Rights, Let Them Lead the Way. All has just been amazing, outstanding, and we as an institution are better for it. As a faculty member at NYU Abu Dhabi, your contributions continue to stand and again reflect that work across the diaspora. So let me again say, thank you for all that you have done for NYU Gallatin, for NYU Abu Dhabi, for your partnership, for your research with so many. And we are honored to be able to highlight your vast contributions to diverse communities and people of African descent, to NYU, to New York, and so much more. Thank you for serving as the co-chair of the committee to commemorate the African Growth Theater, which is now located in NYU's John A. Paulson Center. It has been an inspiration to work with you and to see you move this project forward. It has always been a joy to work with you and get to know you. Your spirit and your generosity works and walks in before you and beside you. I know that others throughout the week and after this ceremony will have lots of accolades and words, and I wish I could be there just to celebrate you in person. But let me just say, again, Michael, you're a great citizen, and as a proud alum of NYU, thank you, thank you, thank you. And congratulations, Michael. We look forward to celebrating you even further. Let me end again in the words of Martin Luther King Jr. In so many ways, because our futures are interconnected. Quote, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. You, Michael, have taught us about this interconnectedness, and we look forward to honoring your legacy by carrying it forward. Thank you again to everyone.
Whew. That guy sounds cool. It's really a great honor. Can everyone hear me okay? I never have a sense of it when I'm up here, so not that I'm up here that often. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Can't celebrate Martin Luther King without celebrating that old spiritual colleagues, esteemed guests, followers of the dream. I want to thank you for this great honor, Monroe, France, OGI, and Dr. Lisa Coleman, who really put it on there for me. I'm really appreciative. She sent me a beautiful gift in my building, and I have to get the number of her penthouse so I can send a thank you note. But what I have to reveal to you tonight may come as a real shock. For tonight, you're actually celebrating three Michaels. First, my colleague and compatriot in the arts, award-winning writer-composer Michael R. Jackson. Secondly, that guy you heard about, Michael Dinwiddie. And thirdly, Michael King Jr. That was Martin Luther King's birth name. His father was Michael King Sr. Seriously, I'm not making this up. I'm not doing a George Santos on you. This is not fake news. This is from an article in Time magazine, and I quote, in 1934, an African-American pastor from Georgia traveled to Berlin to attend an international conference of Baptist pastors. While in Germany, this man became so impressed with what he learned about the reformer Martin Luther, he decided to do something dramatic. He offered the ultimate tribute to the man's memory by changing his own name to Martin Luther King. His 5-year-old son was also named Michael, but not long after the boy's father changed his own name, he decided to change his son's name too. And Michael King Jr. became known to the world as Martin Luther King Jr., end quote. I love to discover and tell the stories behind the stories. Today, people who don't even know about the German priest Martin Luther, who lived in the 16th century, do know the name Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King is someone whose legacy we often take for granted, or should I say granted. The 30-foot statue in Washington, D.C., made of, and I quote, shrimp pink granite. Some of you have seen it, right? And on the Boston Commons, Martin and Coretta have been immortalized in bronze by NYU graduate Hank Willis Thomas. Yeah. There are schools and centers and parks and study centers all over the world named after him, but no statue, no building, no edifice, no legislation will do the work of social justice and activism that King dedicated his life to. Steps in the right direction, yes, and it's important to memorialize, to remember the challenges that were overcome, but it is up to us to keep the memory alive through our actions, words, deeds, and our lives. My very first academic appointment was at Michigan State University, the Martin Luther King Jr. Rosa Parks visiting professor, 1987, gives you an idea. As I saw the images and heard the news of the horror of what happened there just days ago, I realized that all across our country, our campuses, schools, churches, our synagogues, our mosques, our shopping centers, are under threat from senseless acts of violence. Let us not forget, the King was himself in 1968 a victim of gun violence more than 50 years ago. And in Memphis, he was marching with essential workers, garbage collectors who demanded a living wage and safer working conditions. Their protest was triggered after two men, Robert Walker and Eckel Cole, were tragically crushed in their truck when it malfunctioned. King also fought for social justice, and he insisted that every American citizen should have equal access to the ballot box. A 20-something-year-old, yeah, I know, it's really, we're still, where are we now? I love that. A 20-something-year-old college student named John Lewis marched beside him and sometimes in front of him. And to this day, the right to vote is held hostage by the very Congress people who are there by virtue of our votes. Martin Luther King wrote about the mass incarceration that especially targeted the economically disadvantaged and people of color. And against the advice of nearly everyone, he spoke out against the war in Vietnam. His criticism was harsh and biting. Many people turned away from him in that period. He was spied on and defamed by the FBI, shunned and treated as a pariah. You know, before Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was marginalized in many ways. But he had a bigger vision than that. He was concerned not just with civil rights, but human rights, that others had a right to live in dignity, that life should be as good for them as he meant it to be for him, for his children, for other people's children. I guess he was just too woke for his time. Just think, this is what blows my mind. He was 26 years old when he was elected to lead the Montgomery Improvement Association, which oversaw the bus boycott. He had just graduated in June from Boston University, and in December, he was thrust into the national spotlight as its leader. He only had 6 months between the end of his education and real life. No TikTok, no Instagram, no Facebook. The writer Julius Lester refers to the 1960s as a time when, quote, you had to put your body in the struggle in those days. I ask myself and I ask you, have times changed? Don't we still have to go in the streets and protest injustice? Don't we still have to demand rights for our brothers and sisters, trans, gay, brown, yellow, red, white? Don't we have a responsibility to keep alive the dream for dreamers? To move out of the comfort zones of acceptance, to challenge stupidity and hierarchy and easy answers, to do what Bob Marley says, get up stand up for your right. I know I'm not really a singer, but I like to try. The biggest part of the word humanitarian is human. How do I honor the humanity in others? My colleagues will tell you that I have a favorite saying, my job is to make it as good for you as it is for me. That is a job we all have for each other. So in closing, I have a story that I would like to share. When I learned I was going to get this honor, I called Patricia Carey. And I thought, I wanted to ask her, what I should say and everything. But before I tell that story, I have to tell the real story, which is the Gallatin School is next door to Tisch. And Tisch had a dean, Mary Schmidt Campbell, who was African American. Yes, okay, you can clap Mary. Yeah. She went on to Spelman. She was wonderful. And I came out of the building one day and I saw this elegant black lady. And I said, oh, Dean Campbell, I'm so happy to meet you. I'm so pleased, blah, blah, blah. And she said, young man, you should know that I'm Patricia Carey. I am Dean Carey. I am not the blah, 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 blah. So basically she told me off. So I had to tell that story. She walked away, but years later, she either forgave me or forgot. I don't know. But I had the privilege of being one of the faculty involved with the scholars in their pursuit of the beloved community. I was invited to speak to the scholars, to talk about different things, and to just share with them. Are there scholars here tonight? Are there scholars? Would you please stand, scholars, so we can honor you? I guess I stayed home. So everyone has talked about the Patricia M. Carey Changemaker Award, which is presented to students who embody humility, compassion, and serve as advocates for the betterment of communities across difference and personify what it means to be leaders and change makers. We can't all march all the time, but we can all be change makers. So I invite you to celebrate Martin Luther King as I do. In these present days, we have to keep our bodies, our minds, and our spirits in the collective liberation struggle. Thank you.
Congratulations to all our award winners. And now we are thrilled to introduce a woman who has toured the world with her debut album, Witness. She's a musician, author, director, and Harlem native, seamlessly transcending genre and medium. People, NYU, help me welcome Amira.
Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There I am. Here I am. My name is Amira Leon. I'm from Harlem. I graduated from Tisch. Any Tisch people in the building? Yeah. Let me tell you one thing. Rinse this school for all the resources they got while you're here, family. There's a lot of resources here that you're gonna graduate and find out about. I dare you to find out about it while you're here. I was like, oh, there were so many opportunities that nobody was marketing towards the limited Black people at this university, but that is changing. That is changing, and I'm glad that this event is still going on, you know what I mean? It is one of those moments where it's like, when do I get to experience my education, you know? And it's not just Martin Luther King, there's so many people that carried him, that made him the man that he was. He was a voice and there was a spine built behind him. So don't be afraid of standing behind people who have a louder voice than you, okay? It's okay to be a part of the spine, and it's okay to say, I can't be the spine, let me be the voice, let me be the face, let me be the hands and the feet, okay? And so this is what this work is. My work happened by accident. I came to this school and there were rare opportunities for me as a Black actor here. And so I created all of them. And I left here aware of how I could create anything, absolutely anything, even in the face of people who were inviting me to a stage that there was no work for me to do, but do it myself, you know? And so I want to invite you to do it yourself. If you don't see it on campus, do it. If it's not here, there's more. And New York is a big, 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 big place. Do not get caught up in these blocks in this village, okay? If you need to find out what's going on, take the train. If you're afraid of the train, take a nice long walk across the bridge. Okay, do something and know that that is enough. Even if it's just walking, being here is enough. And so this is just, all my work is done from improvisation, and these are songs that stayed. So this is Child of the Sun. And this is Idris on keys. Oh, Idris. I call him Idris. Incredible musician and human. Yes. So now we're blanking the slate. I'm here. Have you been sleeping, missing all the good things, dreaming? Say you've been painting pages with your demons, asking God for forgiveness. Where will I go? I don't know. I wanna be better. I wanna be a child of the sun, one of the burning ones, one of the ones who burn, one of the ones who burn. Praying to awaken, dormant and forsaken, free from all this isolation. What do I do when they telling me I can't be who I was born to be, and all they do is watch me bleed in the streets? What do I say to my brother? How do I name my sister? Can you know me while I'm breathing? 'Cause I still believe in I wanna be better. Wanna be a child of the sun, one of the burning ones, one of the burning ones, the ones who burn, the ones who burn. I wanna be better. I wanna be a child of the sun, one of the ones. Still like, got teeth at night, grinding like glass and cillars inside. What do you do when they got your spine, tell you what it do? Your vertebrae are falling out of place. Your hands don't know where the ground is. All you know is that they're praying to a God they don't believe in. Had my skin all up in the air. Look at it drying out. Look it up there. I saw an angel smiling down, saying that I'm coming home now. What do you do when the night is calling you? But you're made of light, and everything is out of sight. What do you do when the night is calling you? What do you do when you're made of light and everything is out of sight? I dare you to breathe with me. It's something you're already doing. So let's take up more space in this place. Because when there is no other option, the next thing to do is exhale. And when there is no other option, the next step is the inhale. And when there is no other option, the exhale is enough. And when there's nothing left, the inhale has to be enough. And so I dare y'all with me here. Let's walk out of here different. Because we can talk about Martin, but he ain't here. And that's the thing about America. We love to memorialize good people because we don't believe that they're here anymore. And then we got people afraid to be good people because this country kills those people just to commemorate them. Put them on the dollar bill, put them in a statue, put them in the curriculum for a week or two. This is a week here, but it is a history of hundreds of years. And so there's more than him, and there always will be. So may we not make the mistake and think that this is a celebration of Martin Luther King. It is a celebration of every single person who carried that man, and every single person who wrote his speeches with him, and every single person who held him before he got on stage. And so we can be all those people. We're either the person who cooks or the person who does the dishes, or the person who stands outside and makes sure ain't nobody doing nothing with the cars and stuff. You know what I'm saying? We all got a role to play, and it don't gotta look too crazy, and it don't gotta be too hard, and you don't gotta work too much. It's not about that. It's not about doing more. It's about actually doing less. And so in that, I wanna invite y'all to just take a deep breath with me. And on that inhale, we're gonna remember all the things that we need to release, and on the exhale, we're gonna let them go. Because there's some work we can't do until we let some shit go. There's some staff here who've been here for years who have not been respected the way they deserve to, so they gotta let that shit go so they can do their work for the students who change constantly. There are students who change constantly, so they miss out on the opportunities that come for the students who came after them. There are students who came and did not leave because they knew that there was work to be done, so they stayed and now they work here. And there are students who leave and they come back every now and then to make sure that they remind this place what exactly it is. This is a week in hundreds of years, and I'm sure only thousands of Black students. Okay, so let's take a deep breath for ourselves, and NYU will do its work with and without us. Okay, I know that y'all didn't expect that, but here we are. You taking a breath with me? You ready? Keep me in the soft part of your mind. I've died twice. I've died twice. In the middle of the night, the full moon kisses the tongue of a silent God as my knees bleed into the rice and the smoke and dances around my tired limbs, praising like I ain't died just moments ago, praising like death has no grip here, no stench neither, praising like flesh as it falls off the bone and into the cavernous mouth of tomorrow. Today does its bidding in secret, leaves a hint for the living, and feasts on the memories of the dead. But I am a quiet spirit with a tongue on fire. What am I to say? I am a Black woman who is tired and has not one day in my life questioned why. I know why. And because I know, I'm always asked. And because they ask, I got used to answering. And because I answer, they always call. And if they call, I answer. Because I got used to being someone I never asked to become. But I am holy and alive. Black and woman and alive. Bleeding through and through alive. So watch me while I'm breathing. Watch me while I'm breathing. Watch me while I'm breathing. Before I become a headline. Before I become a headline. Watch me as I'm breathing. Watch me as I'm breathing.
NYU, please put some breath in those hands again for Amira, accompanied by Idris. And now, people, it's time for some conversation. Please join us in welcoming our moderator for this evening, Dr. Karen Jackson Weaver, the Senior Associate Vice President for Global Faculty Engagement and Innovation Advancement within the Office of Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Strategic Innovation. And our panelists, Maggie Anderson, author of the critically acclaimed book, Our Black Year, and the CEO of the Empowered Experiment Foundation and creator of the Black-owned Hair Care Challenge. We also have with us Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright and Tony Award-winning writer, composer, and lyricist of the Tony Award-winning musical, A Strange Loop, Michael R. Jackson. And keep those hands going for clinical assistant professor at the NYU Gallatin School of Individualized Study, Dr. Shatima Jones.
Can you all hear me? Can you hear me? All right, let's give it up for our wonderful panel. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I don't know about you. Tonight has been beautiful. Hasn't it been wonderful? Let's hear it for all of our award winners, our wonderful moderator, the speeches. I am so grateful to be here with all of you. What a privilege and an honor to have this wonderful panel. And tonight, everyone, this is a brain trust. This is a teach-in moment, okay? So class is in session. All right, so we are in for a wonderful treat. I want to just give you some framing remarks. I wish we had more time. Tonight has been wonderful, and we just want to celebrate and highlight the expertise that's here on the stage. And you heard a little bit of that about that earlier. But I want to just give you some context for our conversation this evening. So this year, MLK Week focuses on collective liberation through the lens of Afrofuturism. You can clap for that. That's one. Now, while Dr. King's work may not expressly be defined as Afrofuturism, his desire for all to have the full human experience afforded to them through inalienable rights, let me say that again. While Dr. King's work may not expressly be defined as Afrofuturism, his desire for all to have the full human experience afforded to them through inalienable civil rights connects directly to the, and I'm quoting Momac here, the intersection of imagination, technology, the future, and liberation that ground Afrofuturism. I see a lot of nodding heads and clapped hands. Yes, yes, I love it. All of our featured guests this evening have explored the intersections of Blackness and liberation, often noting that the importance of collective action and engagement. Notably, Afrofuturism is not simply science fiction with Black characters, but instead another Black cultural lens that further highlights the complexity of Black experiences. And so tonight we are in conversation with this esteemed panel to talk about the intersection and the connections to allow us to celebrate and really understand Afrofuturism. And I want to start our conversation off this evening by just highlighting how each of you, in your own ways, have expanded our notions of the Black experience. Dr. Jones, your scholarly work and your classroom experiences ask us to grapple with conceptualizations of race and ethnicity, gender, sexuality, and social class, and how these identifications intersect to structure our life chances and experiences. Professor Anderson, you embodied Dr. King's call for action and unity against economic injustice. And Professor Jackson, with Strange Loop, you uncompromisingly presented a work, and let me add, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning work for drama, Tony Award winning Best Musical and Best Book for a Musical. Okay? had to get that in which you uncompromisingly presented a work that you and others have described as a supernova that cuts across the firmament and exploded. So, can each of you take us through the seminal moments in your personal and creative journeys that have brought you to this particular moment in time? And we're going to start with you, Professor Jones. And then we'll work our way down. You can clap for her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here, so thank you for having me. And another shout out to Michael Dinwiddie, my colleague at Gallatin, who's just awesome and amazing. So I feel honored to be here on the night that you received this, your well-deserved award. So the way that I can answer this question about seminal moments, it just takes me back to graduate school. And when I attended graduate school, I entered knowing that I wanted to study things about Black communities, right? And when I started taking coursework, all of the literature that I read about Blackness, Black masculinities, Black femininities, it was in a context of deviance and pathology. And it was so different, radically different from my experiences that I had as a Black woman. And so that really made me want to, it just intensified my interest in wanting to study Black communities. And what I did was I did research in a Black barbershop in Brooklyn to see what do we mean by community? What kinds of conversations are they having there that creates community or not? How are they thinking about their racial and gender identity, right? And so that just really intensified my interest in doing that and really putting out a different and additional perspective and lens on what Black communities can look like outside a context of deviance and pathology and absent fathers, because that just wasn't my experience, right? And so that was one kind of main seminal moment, if I could, that I think about. And just really quickly, just the second one, because I teach a really cool class here, Detangling the Business of Black Women's Hair. And the other one is Black Experiences in Literature, Movies, and Television. But it's really through my research that I came up with these courses, wanting to study Black communities, again, through the lens of institutions, Black barbershops, and Black beauty salons. And I just had a more personal connection to hair, being a Black woman that I won't get into right now. But I wanted to teach these courses to become more familiar with the literature on Black beauty salons. And I just want to say that I was applying to jobs, and part of the application was to come up with your own dream course. And I was actually at Gallatin. And part of the application wasn't just your CV and your whatever diversity statement and things of that nature and your research statement, but it was, if you could teach anything, what would it be? And I really took the opportunity to to come up with these courses. And I think if they hadn't used that word, dream and imagine, that I wouldn't have come up with something so special and personal and relevant to me. So those are two.
Wonderful, yes, beautiful. Thank you for that. So Professor Jackson, we want you to chime in. Share with us the seminal moments in your personal and creative journeys that have brought you to this particular moment in time.
Well, ironically, I think it's actually kind of starts at NYU when I was an undergrad here in 1999 when I got here to New York, and I graduated. I sort of graduated a semester earlier than I had intended to, and I found myself sort of like out in the world like very quickly, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. And it was in that moment that the world was sort of in a very chaotic place. Surprise, surprise, what is old is new again. But I, was like a young, Black gay kid. I moved to this little old lady's house in Jamaica, Queens, in the middle of nowhere. I had this BFA degree. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I had just only begun to sort of start to find my voice as a playwright. And I, in that moment, decided to just begin writing a stream of consciousness monologue called Why I Can't Get Work, which was just about a young Black gay man walking around New York wondering why life was so terrible. And it was this kind of a testimony, thinly veiled, personal monologue, a testimony of how I felt at the time, of like just trying to capture in real time what it felt like to be in my body and in that moment of time. And it was in doing that and beginning that monologue that would eventually turn into my musical Strange Loop that I really began the painful work of sort of self-analysis and of trying to feel like I belonged in the world. And for many years, I didn't feel like I belonged in the world, not in a suicidal way, but like I didn't feel like I saw myself, and not just saw myself for other people. I didn't see myself to myself, and that's what the piece "A Strange Loop" ultimately became a container for that exploration of like a self perception. And what did that mean? And so I think that that's sort of what kind of brings me here is that I then spent essentially the next 20 years trying to capture the experience of trying to see myself, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it's beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Wonderful.
And
Thank
see
you.
myself truthfully, it took a lot of work.
A lot of work. Love it. Wonderful. All right, Professor Anderson, what about you as you think about the trajectory and the seminal moments in your personal creative journeys that have brought you here to this particular moment in time? What is it that you want to share with the NYU community?
So I have a JD and an MBA from University of Chicago. Before that, I had the blessing of being able to serve as a congressional aide to our recently passed on civil rights hero, John Lewis. And when I was in law school, I was a constitutional law student and friend and buddy and to our first Black president, Barack Obama. He taught me at University of Chicago Law School. Then I went on, after law school, I went to business school. And after business school, I never practiced law, went on to business. And I was recruited to McDonald's Corporation and served under the first and only Black CEO of the largest, most recognized brand in the world, McDonald's Corporation, Don Thompson. So here we have these major influences, John Lewis, Barack Obama, and Don Thompson. So these were second to my parents, being major influences in my life. And the path that was set for me was to, help Sears sell microwaves, become a big-time person in corporate or Wall Street, corporate lawyer, something like that. But now I'm an activist. That's my badge of honor. I fight for Black people, for economic justice, for people. I teach and preach Black business history, and I fight for business diversity. I research and expose economic inequalities, not just locally in Black communities, but in corporate America, supply chain, and in government. So that became my life, and that transition, I had that great foundation of my parents, my Cuban immigrant parents, who came here with nothing and taught us to love everyone and work hard. And then professionally and educationally, having these great mentors, to making this my life, from very intensely personal, just like my new friends here, moments. I made it out of Liberty City, a very tough and underserved part of Miami, and I married. My husband went to Harvard, he came from Detroit, so both of us came from really tough communities and went on to do great things educationally and professionally. And we were sitting there relishing in our accomplishments and our greatness and how we're just wonderful exceptions to the standard Black person. And we were celebrating an anniversary, and because we had these great jobs at big corporations, we said, hey, let's go to Magnificent Mile in Chicago and have a big fancy dinner and just celebrate how great we are, and really redeem all the blood and brilliance of our ancestors by having an expensive dinner on Magnificent Mile in Chicago. The hypocrisy of it all hit us when we got the bill. It was like $600. And we're like, we have the money, but what are we doing for our people with all of these accolades and all these experiences? This money could have been much better spent on the strong but suffering South Side of Chicago or the West Side of Chicago. We're talented tenthers. We believe in that. The whole purpose of us getting to where we got was supposed to be to lift everyone else up, and we're not doing any lifting. A lot of talk, vote Black, church Black, obviously love Black, very happy if the Black coach made it to the Super Bowl, all that stuff. Very proud Black people, but never buying Black. So that night was actually our anniversary, and we had planned to have a staycation. We had booked a beautiful hotel room downtown. And my husband was ready to be romantic and celebrate. This was before the kids. And I had gone on about the bill. And I was just, I was like, we're hypocrites and we're horrible people and we're not doing anything for our people. It's like, okay, baby, how about this? If we can just go on with the evening as planned, I promise you for the next week, we are only gonna spend money in the Black community. We are only gonna buy Black, I promise. So from that very personal moment, the empowerment experiment and my life as a Buy Black activist was born. We didn't do our week. We pushed it off. We kept talking about it. And then finally in 2008, as we saw our friend John hooped with Barack at Harvard, and my professor, as we saw our friend have real chances to become the first Black president of the United States, and we saw all of these people coming together about this wonderful possibility to fight racism in America, we said, let's finally do it. Let's take our stand, let's do it, but not just for a week, not just for a month, let's do it for a whole year. And let's do it publicly. And hopefully we can get people as excited about this political achievement, as excited about economic equality as they are about political and social equality. Maybe we can inspire this. And by this time we had two beautiful little girls too, and obviously cute little girls born out of highly educated couples, Harvard couples out of South Side of Chicago were very popular at that time. So maybe we can inspire other people to think about these issues too. So we took our stand, our history-making stand, to buy Black for an entire year, no matter what. And that year was painful, it was hard, it changed us tremendously, and I could never go back to corporate, never think about going to Wall Street or law or anything like that. And since then, I've made my life to fight for economic justice and to use all of my smarts and strength and soul and all those teachings from those great mentors to continue the empowerment experiment, that experiment we started with that stand back in 2009.
Thank you. Awesome, awesome. Beautiful. I want to continue that thread because I've noticed that with all of the work that you have done collectively as a panel, that this theme of Black consumerism, economic empowerment seems to be a common thread in your work, and whether it be in the form of supporting Black artists, or whether it's Black communities, Black barbershops, or Black businesses and Black economic empowerment, I want to know if you all can talk about how we can think about this notion of leveraging the Black dollar for collective liberation and advancement. And then there's a follow-up question to that, because I think I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the global impact that's tied into that in terms of Afrofuturism and collective global movements. And by that I mean, when we think about liberation and possibilities, that we would like to offer future realities to in terms of how we think about what's sacred to ourselves and our communities, as well as pathways for engagement and connection to others. How do we create this opportunity so that everyone understands the importance of the collective connections and the collective liberation and advancement that comes in supporting Black art, in supporting Black communities, and supporting Black businesses?
I don't have a further thought beyond the thing I'm just about to say, but I just started reading this book called Black Bourgeoisie by E. Franklin Frazier, which I've been needing to read for some time, and I'm just in the beginning of it, but I find a lot of his sort of analysis really interesting around a lot of these topics. But
add that to your reading list.
yeah, it's a really fascinating book that sort of explores the history of the Black bourgeoisie from Reconstruction, slavery and Reconstruction. That's just that has nothing that doesn't totally have anything to do with it, but like something about what your question makes me think about this book. And I guess I can only really respond to it from the art part of it, because I'm a terrible business person. So I don't know how to leverage anything around business. So if someone here, or you can teach me how to be a better business person, a better Black business person, please, by all means, teach me. And I guess like as an artist, it's tricky because, at least for me, because art is there's always this question in art about art, entertainment, art and commerce.
Right.
And like what are you serving as when you are making it, when you are an artist? And this is something that, definitely came up for me working on my musical A Strange Loop, because A Strange Loop was like very critically acclaimed, but it was not commercially successful in all the metrics that it is considered needs to be in the sort of Broadway space. And so for some people that makes what I did, like, makes the show a failure, and for other people it doesn't. For me, it doesn't make it, because I'm always prioritizing the art part, and for me, what's important is that this very specific, nuanced, complex Black story touched a lot of different people and got a lot of people to consider a Black experience from a perspective that they had never considered it before. And for me, the number of people who got to see that and for whom that inspired them, that is more important than whether the show, had like a, recouped its investment. And so I guess like the only way I can really respond to your question when factoring that in is just to say that for me, I have to kind of in some ways question the premise of the question, because the metrics for what I think the impact of the show are different than anything that has to do with like Black dollars buying it, or people, or financial success. And that's just a personal sort of thing that I feel about it. But I don't know if that's a complete answer to what you've asked, but
I think it is.
I kind of like, I just have to focus on the sort of philosophical and sort of spiritual and artistic impact of what I've made more than anything else, because that's, I think, what is ultimately the purpose of it. It's of course it would be lovely if like I could like continue to get like my gross weekly box office receipt check every week. It was really nice when I was getting them every week, but I also got, even while that was happening and even after the show closed, was the number of people who tell me how much the show meant to them, the number of people who tell me that the show inspired them as artists, the number of people, like that, there's a dividend that pays far beyond anything that I can see or you can see over the next couple of years, and it's, was also part of my mission statement when I, was living in this little old lady's house, and 20 something years ago, I wanted to make a work that would be duly noted, and that people would remember, that it would stay with them, that it wouldn't just be some commercial boondoggle that that's like popular and just sort of like but then is disposable and forgettable.
Right.
And sometimes those things are very profitable, but they're totally forgettable. And so I guess I just would challenge people to think about that because there were all these people who were so upset and sad that the show closed, and I was too in a sense. But I also, when I really stopped to think about it, I was like, that's where that quote about the supernova came from. I was telling a reporter at the Times that it was like, it made sense to me that something that was that unique sort of flame, like it did its thing, but then across the firmament and sort of exploded. But that there's residue. It has a continued impact beyond that moment that it was sort of shining at its brightest. Absolutely. So that's a long way of sort of, I think, responding to your question.
No, I think you hit on the head.
No,
yes,
you did.
I really agree.
Can I follow up on that a little bit? This whole thing that you said about the focus, and there's this tandem and this pressure. So I'm not the first person who's stand up and said, hey, we need to buy Black, we need to support Black-owned businesses, and talk about how most struggling Black communities are raped and raided of their wealth, and just the horrible statistics when you think about the Black hair care industry that was created by Black women and just really gave us real access and possibilities for the American dream, and it's completely gone. The whole Black ethnic hair care section right now is owned by Dutch and French brands with kente cloth on the boxes. It's just horrible when you think about all those things, and the focus is tough, because when smart people like us and academics jump into this fray, it's really easy to get pushed away from that focus. There are a lot of folks in the community who are fighting for this, but not a lot of them have credentials like us. So when you have credentials like I do, then you get corporations who want you to dilute your message. Aren't we talking about all minorities? And can't we just glob this message of liberating Black people onto other groups? And of course, I believe in all of that. I mentioned to you that my parents are Cuban. My daughter is gay. I care about and love all people, but I took this stand for Black people. And this message, this history, this unique history that Dr. King is very much a part of, is about Black people and the Black struggle in this country. And you can't just glob that onto the struggle of other minorities. And unfortunately, at least not yet, when you engage in a white woman-owned business right now, as much as I buy woman-owned, it's not having the kind of impact on the west side of Chicago that I need to see happen. So I'm fighting for that west side of Chicago Black-owned business. And it's really hard to stay focused on that goal of liberation. Dr. King saw that too. Before he was able to talk about the boycott and social justice and fighting for Black people to be able to drink and eat wherever they want, before he was even thinking about that stuff, the Black businesses fueled and funded his platform. He grew up, unlike the Black kids now, surrounded by outstanding Black business owners.
And I'm gonna jump in here, Maggie,
Okay.
because
I know
the beautiful thing about this is, and Professor Dinwiddie mentioned it, he talked about Dr. King being so young, 26 years old, right, with the Montgomery Improvement Association. And December 1st, 1955, when Rosa Parks said, when she was the catalyst that started the Montgomery bus boycott, it allowed them to not only challenge policies and segregation, but it also allowed them to tap into opportunities for Black mobility and Black economic collective.
Right. It was an economic boycott.
Right?
People never frame it that way.
In terms of then allowing Black people to rely on car services and mobilizing together in ways that then ultimately put pressure on the state of Alabama to reverse, and it caused a federal change to be made in terms of providing access and not allowing segregation. And I do think, and I actually have 2 points I want to make on this, and you talked about this, Professor Jackson, your work and your play that you've done, it makes space for complex intersectional experiences to be displayed on the stage, and that's important. And I think what happened is that when we think about mainstream art, and theaters included, it hasn't centered Black voices or Black experiences, right? And so as a result, the full humanity and variation of the Black community, they're often misrepresented and uncelebrated in artistic spaces, right? And so Maggie, you talk about this. If you don't have her book, you should definitely get it, My Black Year. And I told Professor Jackson, you need to make sure that we get copies of your book as well, because that was also a Pulitzer Prize winning book. So these are some that have, you can clap for them. Yes, that's awesome. So these are important works because they really make us, I think, understand the complexities of the work that they're doing. And you talk about this in the book, Maggie, My Black Year. And I'm gonna get to you in a second, Professor Jones, so don't no, I'm coming. But there's something important about the historicity of what Maggie's talking about. The moment that we're in now, and we think about Afrofuturism, it's important to understand, you talk about the Tulsa Race Massacre and Black Wall Street, and how many Black businesses during that time were decimated, right? And you talk about lynchings during Jim Crow, and many of these were Black business owners. And so when we talk about Black investment, Black capital, Black seed funding, these are things that we have a generation that has been erased, that has been dismantled. And so the vestiges of that are still very much here. And you actually talk about that, Professor Jones, in your work. You talked about Black hair deserts and how creating fellowship within Black communities and neighborhoods can be difficult because there's a lack of Black businesses and Black community spaces. So my question for you is, how might we take these opportunities to bring together neighborhoods and communities to connect with one another while simultaneously creating new spaces for belonging?
Now I want to answer your first question, the previous question. No, but really, I think, and I guess I'll do both and give me like a 2-minute warning because I don't want to blab. But it's really interesting to think about the idea of supporting Black businesses and sort of Black economic autonomy, if you will. We were just talking about it in both of my classes these past few weeks. And even thinking about like becoming a barber, what that really meant, and becoming a beauty stylist for Black women and Black men, it was a way for them to buy their slavery, but to buy their freedom, right, if they were enslaved, and then use that money to then buy it, buy the freedom of their friends and family, to then become philanthropists, right, and do things for civil rights. And so I think about, now we think of Black barbershops and Black beauty salons as quote unquote safe spaces for Black people. And I say quote unquote because it's not safe for all, right? And we think of them as places that are primarily, that are racially exclusive, right? Like Black special places, Black institutions. But really, Black barbers used to exclusively service a white clientele. And because of racism, and that was seen as elite, right? That they would take care of white clientele. It wasn't until white, Irish, and Italian immigrants moved in, right? And then they started to professionalize, and you had to get credentials to become a barber and have a license, that then pushed Black barbers into urban spaces, Black spaces, right, in the inner city. And that's how these places came to be known as historically Black institutions. Now the biggest threat is gentrification, all right, in neighborhoods like Brooklyn and the barbershop that I studied. And what's really important there, in addition to the loss of community in the sense of connections and the conversations that happened there, it was also an economic hub for an underground economy. So I don't know if you have ever been to a Black beauty salon in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, but you go there and you come home and it's like, I got pots and pans and some nail polish and some CDs. Yes, I'm a little older. And DVDs, right? And it was really, it's still like that in the barbershop, right? An underground economy for Black and brown people of the working class and lower classes to come in and make money, right? And sell products and goods to us. And so with the loss and threat of these sorts of places in particular, it's also dismantling our money in those ways. Can I just also add on the other side, I'm glad you brought up beauty supplies, because we don't own a lot of our beauty supplies as Black, right? So we're there doing the work and doing the labor and standing on our feet and doing that work, but that's not where the real money is. I'm just gonna add, I'm bringing in my students' voices. It can also be kind of difficult for them to support Black businesses, particularly when it comes to our hair. And I'll throw in my experience. A few weeks ago, I was like, oh, I'm gonna straighten my hair, not chemically, but what is it, the silk press. So I was like looking it up, and I found a salon, it's a Black-owned woman, Black-owned stylist, and it was like, detox your hair before you come in, have it washed, have it combed through, come in for a consultation, and for the silk press, it's $526. And I was like, YouTube, let me see what I can find on how to like straighten my hair just to do something different. And it's like, okay, so I'm not saying that the stylist isn't worthy of the money that she says her time is worthy of, and to set standards for what it is, she wants her clients to meet before she agrees to style your hair. That's good and dandy, but I'm also like, all right, that's kind of not for me, right? At this point, I'm not you all, I guess. All right, Dean Victoria, can you like up, all right, we'll talk. Right? But so it's these are just some complications, and it's not her fault, right? And it's not even the hair care products, because it's hard for us to get loans, right? And start our own businesses, and then put the products out at a lower rate. And so I just kind of wanted to throw that history out there, and kind of, that's my perspective on this question. And just thinking about the social relations, yeah, it's a loss. But I do think that this younger generation, that they're very creative and they're using social media in very, innovative ways to come up with new ways to connect to each other. Or these YouTube channels, it's 4C hair, different textures, different complexions. This is how you style your hair for this. This is what you need to do for that. And so I think that that's something where the younger generation are kind of moving us forward, that it's not necessarily in going to the salon like I did and spending hours there and talking and taking in those conversations of older people around me, but it's something else. They're really creating their own spaces, primarily on social media. Yeah.
I love that. And even our performer today, Amira, when she was talking about her artistry, right? And creating these spaces, you're talking about economics, but I think it spans all generations in all sectors when we think about Afrofuturism. So it's across sectors. It's the arts, it's business, it's technology, it's higher education. And so I think part of it is, how do we do this work with a respect for the past, right? Looking back and honoring the past and honoring the legacy of Dr. King and others, but also how do we look forward? How do we look to the future and find transformative ways to build on technology, to build on the innovation right in this room, to also encourage one another to think about this in new and exciting ways. And we're running low on time. The time has flown by. And I have one final question that I want to ask all of you. And it's always something that we do when we host events within the Office of Global Inclusion. We talk about the work that we do. We talk about the investment, the commitment, the time, the energy, but we also talk about the joy that comes from the work. And something we want to do today as a part of our conversation is to center the concept of Black joy. So how do we use this joy to recharge and reinvigorate ourselves in the work that we do? And so I want each of you to share with us as we conclude our conversation this evening. Can you share with us what is currently bringing you joy, and how do you make sure you get enough of it every day? And do you have any advice for us in the community about what we should do to share joy or to bring joy to others? Okay, so how do you get joy? How do you make sure you get enough of it? And any advice for us here in the NYU community about sharing and spreading joy? You want to start, Maggie?
That's a tough one. Activism isn't fun. But so I find myself leaning on those folks that we normally take for granted, just really, really depending more on family, my daughters. And when you are an activist, it's typical that you're not suffering from the situation you are fighting against, So I'm always thinking about the unnecessary suffering and the injustice. So it's really easy to think about your blessings when this is your life. It's hard to complain when this is your work, when you're thinking about people who need help or who are victimized. So that's part of my joy. And then there's actually something that my husband said to me the other day when I was just venting and just feeling like what I do isn't making a difference. And why did I choose this? Why don't I just go back to corporate or something like that? And he told me, he's like, Maggie, there are going to be strangers at your funeral. You have to remember that what you do and what you say, and that you are using your smarts and your spirit and your voice to speak up for the victimized and the voiceless, the poor and the powerless. That makes a difference to so many people, and you may not. And I what you're saying about not getting the money or the accolades, I'm there with you. I got tons of great reviews for my book, but it's nowhere near a great seller. So if you are going to get my book, please don't get it at Amazon. Please don't pervert our family's year about buying Black and then buy my book from Amazon. Get it from me at our website and know the money is going into a Black-owned bank and being recycled in the Black community. And that the money is getting recycled in the Black community, and the proceeds benefit our foundation, our 501c3, the Empowerment Experiment Foundation. The website is ourblackyear.com. It's the name of the book, Our Black Year. Very easy. But the point is, every day I get a letter like you do from someone who's appreciated, and that's the payment, that's the joy. God sends me these angels to remind me of why I'm doing what I do. So there's so much inherent joy in being an activist. And the more you go out there, the more great friends you make, and that's the joy. It keeps you going, it keeps you smiling, and it keeps you fighting.
Thank you,
So
Maggie.
that's what it is. Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Professor Jackson.
For me, the joy that I'm sort of experiencing right now is that I'm in rehearsal for a new show. It's called White Girl in Danger.
Right.
And it's a show that I've been working on for the last couple of years. I in some ways do think of it a little bit as a companion piece to A Strange Loop, though it's not like directly about, it's not directly connected to the show, but it was sort of born in the same evolving mindset that A Strange Loop was born in. And because of the pandemic, it stalled like our developmental process. I mean, we were able to actually continue the development process through the pandemic, but we weren't able to come together. And theater, had to shut down for, a couple of years. And the thing that brings me joy is collaboration with people. And being in rehearsal every day with these group of people, many of whom have developed the piece from its inception about 6 years ago, to be able to be in space and in artistic, musical collaboration with them, to share ideas, to try things, that is the thing that makes me the happiest that I've ever been or will ever be at any moment in time, because I get to play and explore with people, many of whom are my friends. And so I guess I would just say my advice is to find the people who you really want to spend time with and that you want to be in fellowship with and who you want to be in relationship with and that you want to be in collaboration with and have intimate relationships with, and hold on to those people and find the opportunities to be with and make with those people over and over and over and over again. And that's the thing that I try to do as an artist. It's why, theater is a tough business, but it's the one thing that's like not like anything else in the arts or entertainment space, because it's live and in person, and trying to do that is like so hard and difficult. But if you can find all the right people to collaborate and work with, it's like an elixir like no other. So that's my joy.
Yes, love it. Wonderful. I love it. Dr. Jones, you're gonna close us out.
You interpret my joy. You got me singing I'm Anita Baker, because out of it's Valentine's Day. Yeah, listen to Anita Baker anyway. But what brings me joy is these days is really just being present in whatever it is I'm doing, because you can always find something to be joyous about in that moment. Because of the setting, I'll talk about work. I love being in the field with the people who I'm researching, who text me and knowing that I'm bringing their voices to a broader audience, and it will exist even when I'm not. Well, I'm gonna be here for a while, but it will exist forever and ever. And being in the classroom, you students, I love the students. You all just really keep me on my toes. They use language and artists they bring up, and it keeps me smart and fresh. And I look, the other day a student stayed after class because they teach class. They have go-to student system, so you pretty much facilitate the class. And they said, that was really fun. I enjoy facilitating class. I'm thinking, can I do it again? And I was like, if you want to, yeah. And he said, I'm thinking about being a professor. And he said, I haven't really seen many people who look like me. And I said, well, what does a professor look like? And I looked down at myself. And they were brown skin as well. And it was just I was like, we'll keep talking. We talked outside the classroom and it was just wow. I don't know, I just love those moments. It's such a privilege. I look around my classroom and I see versions of me at different points in my career. And I take that really seriously, that I get to come in and share this space with them and have them shape me as well. So that's what brings me joy. So.
Thank you. I want to thank our phenomenal panel tonight. I want to thank all of you. What brings me joy is seeing each and every one of you. We've been doing this program now virtually for the last couple of years. So to be here in person and to feel the positive energy, the warmth in this room, the engagement and the connection, and to be able to have a conversation with such a dynamic panel has been a pleasure, a privilege, and an honor. So please join me in thanking our panel. I want to thank all of you, and I want to call Monroe to come back up for the next phase of our program. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
It's giving blackness, it's giving activism, intellect, and joy. Give it up for Maggie Anderson, Dr. Shatima Jones, Michael R. Jackson, in conversation with our own Dr. Karen Jackson Weaver. And keep those hands going as we bring you once more the sounds of Amira and Idris.
Thank you for that conversation. I think something that is important is I was taught something similar. You're raised in one place and they teach you to go make change somewhere else. And I just want to invite y'all to know that you don't got to change things elsewhere. You get to be where you are. So, people made me leave Harlem to go become something outside of Harlem just to say that I'm from Harlem. You know what I mean? And it's like, when I think about the work that I do nobody asked me this, but I'm telling y'all because I'm closer to y'all than our iconic panelists. When I think about it, I think about the version of me that would have stayed in Harlem, the version of me that would have never came downtown and taken the 6 train to a place with people that didn't look like me. It's a place where I would have went to the people without credentials for my education. And that's the place that I'm in now. And I want to remind you that your education has so little to do with the person who has a degree in front of you. I want to invite y'all to remember that your education is a constant engagement with the living and the dead. And so when you engage with another life, right, regardless of who they are, what they've done, or anything at all about them before you know their name, engage with them like you got something to learn from them. And I dare you to be the kind of person who isn't interested in what you can offer. Because that is the work. The work is not, it doesn't have to be specific. It's about being open to not knowing. I may not know what I'm going to do when I walk off this stage, and I may not ever need to know because I'm using myself. I'm finding out about myself. I'm discovering each and every moment that I'm a different kind of being. Like right now, I could be singing, but instead I chose to speak. You know what I'm saying? And so you get to make those decisions. It's nuanced. You may wake up one day and want to be exactly who you've been, and you may wake up tomorrow and want to be a completely different person. And I just want to remind you that that's all good. It's all good, and it's all the work. But yeah, this is called Holy and Alive. And, my work for a really long time focused on the wound, because I was like, if ain't nobody going to talk about it in the way I want to hear about it, nobody that looked like me is going to change it. And so I'll talk about it. And then it got too much. But it was never too much when I had the right people near me telling me I don't have to use my limbs. So the same way they said, find your people, find your fellowship in and outside of the walls that you've been raised in, educated in, feel trapped in. Find your people. And if you haven't found them yet, that's the good news, because they're walking towards you. Okay? Y'all good? Y'all alive? Nah, y'all alive? Come on. After the years we had, I hope you wake up every day and say, ah, I did it again. Seriously, we did it again. Can we give ourselves a round of applause for making it this far? We made it this far. That's a big deal. And for some of us, we didn't expect that. I didn't expect to turn 13. I didn't expect to turn 18. I didn't expect to turn 21 or 25. And then I somehow woke up and was 30 and was like, well, my, if somebody told that little black girl in Harlem she has time, she would have stopped running like she didn't. And so I'm always going to remind you that you have time. No matter how old you are or how young you are, the time is here, okay? And I'm going to shut my mouth and sing. But like she said, we talk and we preach and we do all the things at the same time. So don't ever let your role or your degree stop you from saying something new. Okay. All right, my name is Amira Leon, and this is Idris. And this is Holy and Alive. And all my music's available in the world, and I have children's books and adult books and plays and stuff. I'm living my dream. I wake up every day and decide what I want to do. And I just want to let you know that you can do that too. And to the professors and the people who are tired, maybe more tired than I am, I want to remind you that you can do new things. And that an activist, I've done that work too. You can walk away, you can do less. Okay, everyone? Who's down to do less this year? Let's do a little bit less, because more can happen when you have less to do. Okay? Okay, let me shut up now. The headlines may change, the news stays the same, But after the rain, the temperature drops. The pulse of the nation will come to a stop. If you are breathing, holy you are. Holy you are. Holy you are. Holy you are. Holy you. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive. Don't give them the rights to your heart, no. Holy and alive you are. Don't let yourself fall apart till you know that your spine will keep you back up. There will be days when the sun don't rise and the moon is hiding in plain sight. Oh, and they done made nightmares of the daylight, nightmares of the day. Nightmares of the daylight. Holy, holy, you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive. Don't give them the rights to your heart, no. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. Holy and alive you are. You. I dare you to have foresight, divine right, looking like the shadows are playing in hindsight. The angels are laughing up there, two-stepping across the skyline. If you breathe in my love, if you're breathing, you are qualified. If you are breathing, my love, if you are breathing, you are qualified. Holy and alive you are. And don't forget it till you're not. Okay? Okay. Thank you. My name is Amira Leon. Amira with a Y. Go ahead. Thank you. Good night. Be safe out in these streets, okay? And look at yourself in the mirror, too. Look at yourself in the mirror. That's that joy that you might forget about because you're too busy judging yourself, but get into it. We age beautifully. Get into it. Good night.
Thank you, Amira. Thank you.
Bye. Monroe been supporting me. Monroe been supporting me.
This is what it is, investing in our alums. So thank you all for a wonderful evening. Thank you for an incredible week. Otherwise, wishing everyone a wonderful evening. Get home safely and continue to be in the spirit of collective liberation. All of our histories and our journeys are tied into each other. Thank you. Have a great night.